Happy, was today exciting, terrific Thursday. We're excited to have you guys on here today. Better Brains for Babies. I'm Shanisha Nickerson. I'm the director for Georgia Training Institute and the co-leader with Diane Bales. I also want to take this opportunity for us to just say thank you to our funder who helps us when it comes to programs like this and funding Better Brains for Babies. And I also want to take an opportunity to say thank you to Diane and also our fabulous trainer, Tranae. For those of you that don't know Tranae is a Shelter in Arms former teacher, but she's also our mental health specialist at Shelter in Arms. And I would be remiss for not calling her Dr. Tranae Harris-Bingham. And with all of her accomplishments with Shelter in Arms, Tranae's work really focuses in on fostering social and emotional development, school readiness, social emotional development, and access to quality mental health and disability services for children with special needs. Tranae has a passion for the work that she's done. She's been with Shelter in Arms for many years now. She started out as a classroom teacher, and we're excited for the work that she's doing in our admin department. So without further ado, I would like for Tranae to take over. And again, thank you.
Hello, and thank you for that introduction. That was so lovely to hear. So I'm going to jump in. So our presentation today is going to focus on fostering positive behaviors in our infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. And if you work with children or live with children, then you know that you always want to be fostering and cultivating those positive behaviors and experience. So today, we're going to focus on some strategies that we can use to do that. So throughout today's lesson, I'll be using this schedule and I'll be referring to it. And this schedule is going to show us where we are throughout our presentation. So as you can see, right up next, we have introductions and objectives. So I'm not going to go too far in detail because I already had a lovely introduction, but my name is Tranae. I started in early childhood education in 2000. It was an opportunity for me to be in a work program in high school. So half of the day I went to school, the other half I was at a Head Start center and I worked as the part-time teacher. So that's where that passion started. And then I went on to become a certified school counselor in the state of Georgia. I'm Atlanta native. Graduated from Douglas High School, if we have any Atlanta people here, in Clark Atlanta University as well. Hobbies include paper crafting and scrapbooking and roller skating and photography. So I want to give you all an opportunity just so I can see who we have in the room with us today. If in the chat, if you could tell me about what role or roles you play in the lives of children. All right, I see some coming in. We have parents, aunts, youth minister, grandparents. We have childcare provider, trainer, and parents, home visitors, educators. Ooh, it went really fast then. Community mental health clinicians, and we have some nutrition program managers, some family support coaches. So we have a lot of people in the room today that work with children. So throughout our time together, we should be able to have some rich conversations because everyone brings in a different perspective that we can all learn from. So leading into that, we're going to talk about what it means to be a participant in an online environment. So I appreciate you for coming today. I know that a lot of us are in the center and you may have to find coverage for you to be here. You may even be in the classroom while the children are taking their naps. So I just want to thank you and say be as present as you can. If that means you can turn on your camera, do so. If not, that will not be held against you. You can use the chat to ask questions at any time. We will have the Q&A session at the end of the presentation where you can come off mute and ask any questions that you have. But if you think of something and you want to put it in there so you don't forget, feel free to do so. Right, so today's objectives, by the time you leave this training, we would have discussed the basis of behaviors. And you will be able to identify and describe the 4 functions of behavior. And you'll be able to identify 10 universal preventions to foster positive behaviors. And when we get into that portion, we're going to look at how we can incorporate those at home, in the schools, and in different community settings. So throughout today, I want this quote to lead you and help frame your mindset. And it's a child whose behavior pushes you away is a child who needs connection before anything else. So keep that in mind as we go on. And if you have a child that you're working with that you see a lot of behaviors that's not what we would deem appropriate or challenge you, think about what that child really needs before anything else. That child needs a positive connection with the adult. All right, so we're moving on, and our schedule is going to move from introductions and objectives to what is behavior. So to answer the question, what is behavior? I want you all to think about the little children who we serve and whose lives we're in. And think about the one thing that's most difficult for them to do at a young age. And that is to communicate using words. So the younger a child is, the less word a child will have in their vocabulary. So behavior in its most basic form for children is a way for them to communicate their needs and their wants. Our job as educators, as parents, as youth leaders, is to figure out what it is that that child wants or needs. So the official definition for behavior is the way in which one acts or conducts oneself. However, when looking at children, we know that behavior can mean a lot of things because it's their way of communicating. So for instance, screaming, a child could be communicating, I'm scared, or a child can be communicating, I'm excited. Biting in a child could say, I'm hungry. It can say, I'm angry, or it can say, I'm nervous. So there are many behaviors that a child can exhibit, and they can have different functions behind them. So one of the things we want to understand about behavior is that most behaviors, if not all, are learned. Now we are born with some innate behaviors that help us to survive. But for the most part, the behaviors we see, they are learned. So research has shown that a 9-week-old infant can fake a cough to get an adult's attention. So babies are smarter than what we try to give them credit for. And I have lived this myself. I have 6 nieces, and I had one that hated her car seat. And every time we would get in the car, she would pretend like she was choking. And she was no older than probably about 12 weeks. And she knew that when she started doing that, we would freak out in the beginning. We would freak out, pull over to see what's wrong with her. She would get the attention she needs. She would stop. So she learned from our reaction that, hey, if I fake this call for fake choking, they're going to stop this car and they're going to come back here and somebody's going to see what's going on with me. I want that attention. So if we want to see positive behaviors in our classrooms, in our homes, in our community settings, then we have to teach children how to behave. So also, I want you to know that all behaviors serve a specific purpose and all behaviors have functions. And there are 4 functions of behaviors, and we're going to get into that with this video.
Tranae, I can't hear the volume.
Okay, let me try. Maybe my earpods is off. Take those out. What about now?
Basically, when we talk about why kiddos engage in behaviors, they engage in behaviors to get their needs met. And more often than not, it is a communicative attempt to get what they want or what they need or what they want to get away from and don't want to have in their world. When we talk about functions of behavior, there's really only 4 possible functions. One is to escape demands or a work or avoid a job or a task. Another function might be sensory. They might be seeking some sensory stimulation. Some students might also engage in behaviors to get away from something that might be painful, for example, a toothache or a headache or something that's more internally aversive. Students also engage in behaviors because they want attention or they want something, just like the little guy or little girl in the grocery store who's screaming for candy and mom gives in and gives the candy and he just learned a lesson from that. So when we talk about behavior, we really want to make sure that we're not looking at or viewing kids as they're just being bad or they know better. More often than not, you can observe a behavior and understand what they're trying to communicate. If not, then we might have to dig a little deeper with some data collection and maybe a functional behavior assessment. But kids don't engage in behaviors just because they're spoiled or bad. They engage in behaviors because they're trying to get a need met.
So just to recap what you have heard in the video, it's an acronym I like to use, that everybody eats. So behaviors occur to escape or avoid, to get attention, to get a tangible item, or for sensory relief or input. So an easy way to remember that is that everybody eats. All right. So also with behavior, we have to consider and know that behavior is related to the context in which it occurs. So this is one of those ones where when you have parent-teacher conferences that come up, because a child may do something in school that they will not do at home, or they may do something at home that they will not do at school. So it's always important to keep in mind that behavior is situational. And this is with children, this is with adults. And even if you really get down to, studying behavior, you can even see this in animals. So behavior is always related into the content in which it occurs. And also keep in mind that it's our reactions to behavior that determines whether you see it again or not. So think about that toddler that's just learning how to walk. If he's just toddling along and all of a sudden falls, but not hurt himself, if a parent or the caregiver, overreacts and, screams at the child, "Are you okay?" or get upset, then more than likely that child is going to start crying. But if you ever had young children and they fall down and they're not hurt and you do that, don't make eye contact, that, when they see that you're calm and that it's okay, then they know that certain behaviors are okay. And you would be less likely to see a behavior depending on how you react. Or you're more likely to see a behavior depending on how you react. So with that in mind, we have to consider the model for behavior. So it starts with the ABC model, and A is for antecedents. And antecedents refers to what happens right before the behavior occurs. So we also consider this to be triggers. That's a word that you'll hear a lot. What triggered the behavior? If you just want to sound really fancy, you can say, what was the antecedents of the behavior? And they mean the exact same thing. So when you're looking at that, you want to know who tends to see the behavior the most, when behaviors usually occur, and where the behaviors usually occur. Some children, when I was in the center, would have a really calm drop off depending on which parent brought them into school that day. Compared to if it was somebody different, it may not be a very easy drop off. I saw this a lot when grandparents had to drop children off, because most children are not used to their grandparents dropping them off of school if they living in the home with mom or dad or another caregiver. So B stands for the behavior, and we've already defined behavior. So that's one is easily to define. It's basically what we see and what the child is communicating to us. And C are the consequences. So we generally think about consequences as something that is bad, but consequences can be positive or they can be negative. A positive consequence is referred to as a reinforcer. On the other hand, a negative consequence is referred to as a punishment. So we want to make sure that when we are giving consequences, that we are using reinforcers instead of punishment. When you use a positive consequence with the child, they're more likely to engage in the behavior. And I know if you grew up in an old school household like me, you know, the switch was a part of our life. I'm just gonna be honest and call it what it is. But those type of punishment, they make children more skilled at what they do. It don't stop the behavior. They just learn how to hide it so that they can avoid that punishment. So it's very important that we can give them that positive consequences, because when they get that reinforcer from their parents or their caregiver or the teacher, they're more likely to do the behaviors that we deem positive. All right. So another quote, and you guys, I really love quotes. So this quote is, we can change culture if we change behavior. So I want you to think about the role that brought you to this training today, whether it's your role as a teacher or a family support. And I want you to, or if it was your role as a parent, then I want you to think about your house. But I want you in the chat to share one word that would describe the dream classroom, household setting, wherever you are. What would be one word that would describe that dream culture that you would want to see in that setting? I see acceptance, peaceful, inclusive, laughter, stability, it's going fast, love, understanding, joy, cooperation, calm, passionate. Trying to scrub through and see if I missed any.
We also have connection and understanding.
Okay.
Compassion, kindness,
Togetherness.
mm-hmm.
Flexibility. Yes. That's a very important one as well. Support. Now that you have your word in mind, I want you to think about what behavior you are willing to change within yourself to see that improvement. You don't have to share that with the group, but I just want you to think about it. So If you want to see support, then you're going to have a behavior that builds partnerships. Flexibility, you're going to have to learn to compromise. Communication, you're going to have to learn how to listen and how to talk to people about your wants and your needs. Kindness, you're going to have to practice kindness. Connection, again, making those partnerships. If you want to see calm, then at first you have to start with that calm from within yourself, because we know that behavior and energy, it travels, and what I feel and what I display impacts what you feel and what you display. So keep that in mind as you think about your word and how you want to use the information that you hear today, and what actions you want to bring forward into the world, and what changes you are willing to make, or what strategies you're going to implement. All right, so we are getting ready to get to the meat and the potatoes of the training. And right now we're going to move from talking about what behavior is to talking about some universal preventions that we can use to foster positive behavior. So I'm going to share 10 of them with you. And what I am using, when I refer to the word prevention, I'm talking about preventions as outlined in the pyramid model. So I have another video. And let me take my earpods out.
A pyramid model is a framework. It's a framework for how to go about teaching children social emotional skills and meeting the social emotional needs of children. When children learn social emotional skills when they're very young, it will help them in everything they do. It's going to help them not only go to school and be successful in school, but be happy. And when people are happy, they thrive.
So we teach arithmetic, we teach writing, we teach all these things, but we don't teach kids how to manage or label or identify or deal with their feelings and emotions in appropriate ways. We expect them to just figure it out. The pyramid model creates a set of practices and structures that allow families and teachers to help their children understand the dynamics of social emotional development and figure out how to manage those day-to-day interactions in appropriate ways. We know from research that when we apply the different evidence-based practices and strategies that comprise the framework, that within the base tier, which looks at supportive in relationships and predictable environments, that about 80 to 85% of behavior issues and concerns are resolved just by making the environment predictable and reinforcing and safe for kids. When we look at that center tier, or that one that looks at teaching specific skills, we can resolve about another 10 to 12% of those behaviors and issues just by specifically teaching a child, here's how we sit, or how to move from one activity to another in a way that is acceptable to everyone else around them. And so we can resolve those, which leaves only about 3 to 5% of those kids at that top tier that need additional interventions or additional supports that the rest of the children wouldn't necessarily need.
Mental health consultation, when you bring maybe a mental health consultant or an early childhood specialist in to consult about a specific child, it really only deals with that specific child. In the pyramid model, that it really talks about what is good for all children. And many times, if you implement what is good for all children, the children who are experiencing some difficulties benefit from that. And then you might need to give them a little bit extra support around specific areas that are within the pyramid model, as far as relationships or their different strategies around social skills. But you get more out of implementing the pyramid for all children rather than it just really focusing on one child at a time. When we provide adults with training and then coaching on how to implement what they've been trained on, and how so they can continue to grow professionally. That is what makes the biggest difference. I see children who really struggled, who really had challenging behavior to get what they needed, grow into children who are able to say, can I have that when you're done? Or if they're really little, next, instead of going over and hitting someone to get what they want. That's the most fulfilling thing.
All right, so today we're looking at those universal preventions. And the goal of universal preventions is to establish a high quality supportive environment and to create nurturing and responsive relationships. So no matter if you're in the school setting, the center setting, your home, a community setting, these are things that you need to maintain those relationships and to just show people that I'm here for you on a human level. So these goals can be applied to any setting that you are working with humans with. All right, so 10, let's start with number 1, which is the easiest, and that is to create a welcoming arrival. If you're at the center, make sure that you greet each child. And this needs to be something that not only the teacher is doing, but whoever is at the receptionist desk. If you have someone at the door greeting parents, make sure they greet the child as well. You can also do with older children, special handshakes. You can create a chart so children can tell you how they want to be greeted. It's important for us to listen to children. Some children may just like having a hello. Some may want a fist bump. Some may need a hug that particular day. So there are a lot of different ways you can create a welcoming arrival at school and in different community settings. In the home, you can create, if you have to wake your child up, make sure you wake them up in a manner that you would want to be woken up in. We have to make sure that we are respecting our children. We don't want them to be startled when they're waking up. So if you can create, some sort of ambiance around the wake up, maybe gently opening the blinds or the curtains, or having a good morning song. When I was growing up, my mom used to wake me up saying it's time to make the donuts. So, just have something that is for that child. If you have multiple children in the home, you may have to change it up because each child is different and each child will want a different way for you to interact with them. All right. So number 2 is we want to make sure that we are teaching the rules and expectations. So imagine the job you're currently in. Imagine you start work and no one told you what you were responsible for. No one told you the dress code. No one told you your lunch hour. No one told you anything about the job. How effective would you be in your role if you didn't know what was expected of you? Children are no different. We have to teach them the rules and expectations that we want them to follow in whatever setting that they're currently in. So one of my favorite is mind your hands, mind your words, and mind your feet. And you can apply these to different settings. So when you are on the carpet or you're sitting on the floor somewhere, minding your hands, maybe putting your hand in your lap so that no one steps on your fingers. Also, if you're in line, minding your hand could be keeping your hands down by your side and not on the person's neck in front of you. For some reason, little kids like to mess with the person in front of them. Minding your words could be the noise level that you have in the particular room. The noise level inside is going to be different from the noise level outside. Minding your feet could mean keeping your feet on the floor, not kicking. Minding your feet outside on the playground could mean going down the slide properly. So it's important to create the general rules that can be applied in different settings for children. My recommendation is that you have 3 rules, no more than 5, because anything above that we forget. Let's just be honest. So keep it 3, no more than 5. And also you want to make sure you post those rules, especially in the classroom, and not just in one area, but post them around the different expectations, because we know that the rules are going to be different in different areas. Also, you want to discuss the rules before starting a particular activity. And you want to make sure that when you are going over the rules, you give the child, if they're at that talking age, you give them an opportunity to summarize what you just said and say it back to you. That way you know that that comprehension was there. So I have a quick video of this teacher going over the rules with this classroom.
Let's remember our circle time rules. Our eyes are watching, ears are listening, voices waiting, bodies calm. This is how we listen. This is how we listen at group time. At group time. Look at this. I see you all. Look, your hands are on your own bodies. You have space between your friends. And it tells me that you are all ready for the moon.
So notice in that video how she was able to correct some children just by pointing out what was expected. She didn't have to say, Jessica, your hands are not in your lap, they're touching somewhere else. Once she said, I see your hands are in your lap, one of the children just automatically put their hands in their laps. So we want to make sure we're giving children the opportunity to make those proactive and positive behaviors without constantly being called on. And we do that by teaching rules and expectations. All right, so next we want to talk about reinforcing appropriate behaviors. And we got into this a little bit earlier, but one research study has found when teachers give more attention to disruptive behaviors, it reinforces the behavior. So if you're constantly pointing out that challenging behavior, children are more likely to continue to do it, because guess what? You reinforced it when you gave them that attention. Now, I'm not stating that, we should ignore challenging behavior, but just make sure that that's not all that you're pointing out to whatever child you're working with. So there are several ways to create reinforcers. Some are very low cost or even free, or you may want to, put some money behind it. It just depends on, where you are or who you are working with. But here are 8 reinforcers. These were developed by Doctors Laura Raffel and Jessica Eggerson. So they came up with 8 reinforcers that can be incorporated into the classroom. So the first is privileges, attention, leadership, praise, assistance, touch, escape, and supplies. Now, not only do these reinforcers work with children, they work with adults as well. So if you're in a center and you want to use these reinforcers with your staff, they may help improve some of the behaviors that you want to see with them as well. And there are different things that we can do, for instance, with privileges. That could be being the classroom helper, or at home, it could be, I'm gonna let you help me water the flowers, or anything that the child may want to help you with. Attention could be having a star student or recognizing a student and letting them have lunch with a principal or a director. At home, that could be 5 minutes of us playing whatever game you want, or doing something that the child chooses at home. So these are really good. If you're on your mobile device, I suggest you do like a screenshot. We will be sharing the slides, but if you just want to make sure you keep it, these are some really good reinforcers that you can incorporate with your children. All right, so I have another quote: "We can improve behavior by 80% just by pointing out what one person is doing correctly." So always make sure that you're complimenting children, and you're praising them, so that not only do you build up their self-esteem, you reinforce those positive behaviors that you want to see. Right, and we want to develop partnerships. So partnerships, this is creating your village or your tribe that you need to raise your child. I've never met anybody that just raised their child by themselves without help from anyone. It really truly does take a village. So if you are from a center, then you want to make sure that you get parents engaged, and not just involved. You want them to be engaged. You want them to feel like they are part of the decision-making team for that school, and that their needs and wants are being heard. If you are a parent, then you want to make sure you're communicating those needs and wants to the school, to your child's doctor, to other family members as well. Having that partnership, because when you don't have a strong partnership, children like to play adults against each other. And that's something they're very skilled at. Think about when you were younger. I'm sure you may have had some opportunities where you put your mom against your dad, or your dad against your mom, or parents against your teachers. That is able to happen when there is no partnership. Children, they notice more than what we give them credit for. So we have to make sure that the adults in their lives are cordial and have an understanding of what's best for that child, and that one person is not undermining what another person does. All right. Number 5 is establish positive rituals. And rituals is something you see throughout history, throughout any culture. You can choose, there's going to be some sort of ritual or tradition that follows that culture. And they create a sense of belonging and connection. So rituals or traditions are important in different settings. In a classroom, this could be having pajama day on first Fridays, or having cards for classmates on their birthdays, or having a classroom song. Think about the movie Lean on Me with Joe. Joe made them learn that school song because it created a sense of connection and a sense of school pride. You can also include daily mantras or affirmations. These can be done both at school and at home. If you are in the community, for instance, if you are some sort of clinician, you can have a ritual that children can do. For instance, once they see the doctor, you may have a bell that they can ring. And, if you make it through your appointment, you get to ring the bell. And children pick up on those things, and they want to do those things. So we have to create those positive rituals for our children. All right, and number 6 is use a visual schedule. Now, throughout this training, I have used a visual schedule with you all. So I made sure that each time we got ready to go to a different segment, that you saw that schedule go from one point to the next. We can do the exact same thing with children at home or at school. You can have visual schedules posted on the wall. At home, you may want to do it on the refrigerator. There are a lot of ways that you can incorporate visual schedules. There are a ton of them that are free if you Google it. If you want something a little bit more tailored, you can go to Teachers Pay Teachers and find a very nice visual schedules. But we need to be able to hear and see things. When you're teaching routine, you want to engage all of those senses so that children can see exactly what's expected of them as well as hear you say it. So I have a video.
All right, look, here we go, friends. We came in and we first washed our hands. We just had a little bit of playtime, and now we're here at Circle. We are going to do 3 things at Circle. We're going to do our fun moon song. We're going to do a little puppet show. And we're going to do some movement. Before we start circle time, let's remember our circle time.
All right, so the teacher in the video did a very good job of explaining what was going on and what the children could expect next. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. And if you have a child in your classroom or in your family that has anxiety, having a schedule can really help decrease some of those symptoms of anxiety. And also, if you use a visual schedule on a day that you need to change something, for instance, if you usually go outside every day, but today it's raining and it's storming and you can't go out, you can always say, we have a change today. This is what we're going to do instead. So that lets that child know ahead of time what to expect and what's expected of them. And not only does this work with children, it works with people as well, grown-ups, I should say, it works with grown-ups as well. Imagine if someone came to your house and said, come on, get in the car, and they don't tell you where you're going. That would create a lot of anxiety. Our nature is to know what is expected of us, and that way we can keep ourselves protected. It's just an innate habit for us to be able to preserve our life force. So we like to know what's coming next. Having that unknown can create a lot of anxiety and a lot of problematic behaviors. All right, and number 7, acknowledge mistakes, and I mean your mistake as the adult. So when we make mistakes, it's important for us to acknowledge that in front of children and make apologies. And that way we model appropriate behavior. If you have came in contact with one of those adults that will say, I don't apologize to children, then, they're teaching children not to value themselves. Like, as a young age, I'm not valued, so I don't deserve an apology. And then that's going to be a child that's going to grow up and do that to other children. So we want to make sure that when we make mistakes, that we show children how to model appropriate behaviors. And also it teaches children how to problem solve and how to react in certain social situations. All right, next is number 8. And we want to teach emotions in social situations. So I want you to visualize a preschooler. We're going to name him James. So James is riding his bike and he falls. Physically, he is not harmed, but he's upset and he's crying. So James' caregiver comes up to him and pat him on the back and say, "Don't cry, you're okay." So James stopped crying, but he does not re-engage in play. If he's with his mom, he's ready to go home, or he's, ready to leave the bike alone. He's not engaging in any forms of play at this point. As James, he just learned that his emotions are not valued, and he is internalizing his emotions. When we tell children, "Don't cry, you're okay," we leave them and physiologically, they're still aroused, they're still upset, but we're telling them emotionally, you need to, calm it down or hide it, bury it deep. So when children have that type of internalization, problematic behaviors eventually is going to come, because it's only so much we can hold in at a given point in time. And when we do that, we create children that's eventually going to explode. So we want to make sure that our children have social and emotional competency. And for them to have that, they have to know how to identify their emotions and how to identify the emotions of others. They have to understand the cause and effects of emotions, and they have to learn how to display emotions in appropriate ways. Now, visualize the same child. James is riding his bike. He falls over. His caregiver comes over to him and goes, "Oh my gosh, James, did you fall? Are you okay?" That gives him the opportunity to let us know. He may say, "Yes, but I'm scared." And you can say, "Yes, falling down can be very scary." And then you ask him, "Would you like to play more? Would you like my assistance in keeping you upright on the bike?" And that way, we're allowing James the opportunity to identify how and what he is feeling at that particular moment. And we're helping him learn how to cope and how to problem solve. So there are several ways we can teach children emotions. We can do role playing and act out different emotions. We can do daily check-ins. You can use a chart like this one that you see. I Googled this. I don't own the right to it, but as you can see, it's just on Google. You can print it out and, point to different emotions every day and act them out, and then have children tell you how they feel on that particular day. You can also talk about emotions during story times. You can talk about how the characters in the book might feel and how they're responding. And you can also talk about emotions doing art. So you can have them draw out a picture of how it may feel to be happy or how it feels to be sad. You can have them, well, pick a color that you think would represent a particular emotion and go from there with children. So there are a lot of different ways to teach emotions, but the one that's going to stick the most are the ways we behave and the things that we model to children, because they learn from what they see. All right, and number 9 is to practice mindfulness. So mindfulness simply means paying attention in a particular way. You want to make sure that you're paying attention on purpose, and you want to be in the moment, and you want to be non-judgmental about what you are sensing, feeling, or experiencing in that particular moment. Now, mindfulness, a lot of people may see it as a religious aspect, but there is secular mindfulness that just focus on the present, and that is something that could be incorporated into the classroom. And it can be as simple as, everybody, let's take 5 deep breaths together. If you're eating, it could be identifying how the food looks, how it smells. You can taste the food and then talk about how the food felt. So you can also practice mindfulness doing music and movements. I really love restorative yoga. And it's one of those type of practices of yoga that anyone can do. You don't have to be able to do handstands or, bend over backwards. It's very gentle, and it's a meet you where you are form of yoga. So there are videos for how to do yoga with small children in schools and at home. And if you worry about, that cultural or religious backgrounds that we want to be sensitive to, you can just call it mindful movements and leave the word yoga out of it. So there are a lot of ways that just by teaching children to slow down and be in the moment, that we are going ahead and teaching them what they feel and how to display those emotions. Yeah, we have something in the comment. One of my favorite ways to teach young children to take deep breath is to smell the flower and then blow out the candle. I love that. I love that analogy. And that's really good that you can have them visualize that way. In their head, they're visualizing that flower and that candle. And if it's a situation where you want to use a visual aid, there are a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about mindfulness. This is one of them. And if you Google relax breathing training, this will come up for children. It's about a minute long. I'm not going to do it right now for the sake of time, but it's a really good one to use with children. All right, and number 10 is have one-on-one conversations. As a teacher, you can do this by setting aside 5 minutes to chat with 5 children each day. As a parent, this can be that time when you're coming home and you're in the car, or you can have a time when you want to give the child an opportunity to pick a preferred activity. So this one-on-one conversation is not the same as circle time if you are in the center. One of my pet peeves is when I come into a center and they have all the children sitting down and each child has to go through and do like a whole rundown of something. Usually is what you did over the weekend. Because the thing about young children, they really don't care what the other child did over the weekend. That's one of those things where in circle time, if everyone's not engaged, you're going to see a problematic behavior because the children are bored. So keep that in mind, that your one-on-one conversation should not be during circle time. All right. So we made it through the 10. So as a recap, we can use universal preventions to develop high quality supportive environments and to nurture relationships by creating welcoming arrivals, teaching rules and expectations, reinforcing behaviors, developing partnerships, establishing positive rituals, using visual schedules, acknowledging your mistakes, teaching emotions, practicing mindfulness, and engaging in one-on-one conversations. So now we are at the portion where we're going to wrap up our training. And before you leave, I want you to take a moment to think about which prevention resonated with you the most. And I want you to think about how you're going to learn more about how you can implement that with the children you work with. And also think about what actions you want to take from this and that you're going to bring forth into the world. You don't have to share them if you type really fast and you just want to. You have the opportunity where you can come off mute. This is also the opportunity where if you have any questions, you can come off mute or you can put them in the chat.
Thank you, Tranae. And I'll be here as well to help with questions that anyone will put into the chat box. We did get some great feedback in the middle of the presentation. Lauren, one of her favorite ways to teach young children is to keep deep breaths. It's to smell the flower and then blow out the candle. So that's really popular. One of the participants says the video with the blowfish. She's going to use that. And also, Tranae, participants want the links to the videos.
Okay.
So we can, that's in the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint will be available.
Yes, yes, all of the links to the videos are in the PowerPoint, and I'll make sure that I get those over to you so that you can email them out.
Great. Ms. Allen said reinforce inappropriate behaviors because most people focus on the bad behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true.
So we do have a question. Hold on, it's moving a little quickly for me. I think I lost it. Hold on, guys.
I've got it, Shanisha. It's a question about in the moment strategies.
Okay.
Tantrum in front of the class, other than removing the child from the class or trying to calm them down, but not being successful, what other strategies could you use?
Yeah, so one thing we don't want to do is remove the child from the classroom, because if the child is doing the tantrum as a means to escape, then you just reinforce that behavior. So what we want to do is that from day one, we want to start teaching children what to do when they feel triggered. So a lot of children, when they're having tantrums, they're feeling frustrated. So when you're teaching that emotion about frustrations, you can teach children what to do when they are frustrated. That could be having a calm corner in the classroom, having social story books that will help them calm down. It could be having breathing balls. And I usually keep one on my desk, but I don't have it right now. But they are balls that you can hold in your hand and they expand and contract that you can breathe with. One of the things I like to do is, I'm gonna show you guys my little octopus. So this guy is a little smiley face. You can have these in your classroom so that when children start feeling triggered, they can let you know, because when you pop them inside out, you see a little sad face. And this is really neat to have, even as adults, because sometimes when my husband is here, if I don't want him to bother me, I'll put it on this side, because we have to make sure that we're communicating our wants and needs, and that we're teaching children how to engage with the world and how to express themselves. So with tantrums, start early, because when they are in the moment, they're not going to hear anything you have to say. The main thing when the child is in that moment, if you have not taught any strategies on how to deal with frustration, then you want to make sure you remain calm. Get down on the level of the child if it's safe. Now, of course, if you have a child that's in the process of picking things up and throwing it at you, you don't want to get face to face with them. But once you get down to that level, you can take deep breaths and, tell the child, can you breathe with me? And because I want to help you. And once I know what you need, I can help you. So we want to make sure with tantrums that we're not escalating the situation. We want to make sure that we are not trying to force the child to conform, because the thing about 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds is they don't really have nothing to lose. And they don't really get, their tantrum is not embarrassing to them. It's us that have the reactions and, start feeling embarrassed or frustrated about the child having a tantrum. So we have to make sure that we stay calm so that we can help that child calm down.
Thank you. It is 2:00 and we want to make sure that we are respectful of everyone's time. We want to make sure that we say thank you to Tranae for this great presentation and a lot of great information that we'll be able to use with our children and families that we serve. I'm going to hang on a little bit. I know Tranae can hang on a little bit if there's anybody else that has any other burning questions, but again, we thank you. We appreciate you. And again, awesome.